This topic is probably the most talked about topic when I go and see customers throughout my career at Alibaba, is how do we do business in China from an IT infrastructure and compliance perspective around this technology. So that's why I'm so pleased to be able to present this today and go through the information that we share with our clients on a day-to-day basis about this topic. We've dubbed it called the China Gateway. The China Gateway is a term that actually encompasses everything that we have to offer to get the gateway into China. So that's basically where the term comes from. As Andrew mentioned, I run the Northern Region Business Development Team, working for Alibaba the last 8 months, and basically focusing on bringing the Alibaba Cloud technologies to the Australian marketplace and helping them develop their capabilities here in Australia, as well as the Asia Pacific region, and in particular what we're talking about today is China. A quick disclaimer, I'm going to be going through a lot of information, and it's very important that you use your own independent personal judgment regarding what I'm presenting, so it doesn't actually present professional advice, just educational purposes only, and just be aware that the information is being recorded and may be published in various media, including print, audio and video formats. And if you do have any questions, we do have a Q&A at the end. Just to jump through the agenda, I understand is I'll go through an introduction, which I have already. I'll talk about Alibaba Cloud in China and give you a little bit of a brief history regarding Alibaba Cloud in China, where it's come from and the capabilities there. Some sample scenarios, so what do you look like when you're not doing no business there and you want to start? When you've been doing some business there, you've got an office. When you're fully fledged there, what are some of the types of architectures and technologies that you can potentially leverage from us? And then we're going to talk about some other areas in the future. So some key challenges of doing business in China, and this is what's come up over and over again and again. One is around access to cloud resources. So if you look at the hyperscale market, there's 4 main providers there. 3 are only there in China, including us, and the 2 that there, you have to use a separate portal to gain access to their cloud resources when you're there. So it is challenging regarding that. There's also other local providers that you can get access to, but that all involves having your own local business there. It's different language challenges. It's not like trying to access cloud resources that you may want to do, say, in the US, Europe, or even in Australia. Hence why it is challenging to access the cloud resources there. Network performance can be a challenge with a great firewall. So, you know, network performance in terms of your applications that you're trying to run, your website that you're trying to run, and the performance of the user performance of those applications and the website is critical for success in China. Compliance regulations is another one. I'll be talking about it a little later. I'll be talking about 2 topics. One's around ICP licensing and the other is cybersecurity law. And then talking about the local internet speed. So in particular, it's a very, very large population. It's a large landmass, and some of the technologies is not what you'd see in Australia around 4G technology. Some is still on 2G technology, and there's few peering points, which means there's few entry points into the market, into China. So it's got a unique market geographical presence regarding that as well. Just in terms of Alibaba Cloud, started in 2009, so it's been going around a long time in China. We went international in 2015. But in terms of the scale, depth and experience regarding the market in China, you're looking at 7 different regions in China across all the geographical spans of that. And some regions, like Beijing, has up to 7 availability zones across the different data centers. And each one has at least 2 regarding that. You can see obviously our home base at Hangzhou with 7. There's also a lot of CDN nodes, so other points of presence that you can use our CDN solution to access and make sure your performance of your applications across the whole of China is up to what you want it to be. There's over 1,300 nodes itself in the China market. And from a market share perspective, 47.6%. So a huge geographical spread, a large scale, a large in-depth amount of technologies available in the market, and a lot of experience dealing with that as well. And what I'll be talking about as well is in particular, one reference client that wants to get access to this ecosystem, actually use our team in Australia to access architectural support, guidance, and so by using our Australian business unit and our offices here, you can actually get a lot more knowledge about trying to leverage our business in China. What is ICP? The Internet Content Provider License. I'm not going to go into too much depth because it is a reasonably complex topic, but I'll talk about essentially what it is. To get an ICP, basically if you want to host a website or use our CDN service in China, you need an ICP license. To gain an ICP license, you need a business server, a business in China, you need an IP address, and you need to be able to speak and write Chinese. There's two types. One's a filing license, which is all about content providing, and it usually typically takes about 20 business days if you work through Alibaba Cloud to try and get that license. And the second one's the commercial license, which is more involved with an e-commerce type of platform. How do we help? We've put a 6-step process on our website, and I've included a link there if you want to get more detail. You can actually log into the Alibaba Cloud website and apply for the ICP application portal, which is in Chinese. As I mentioned before, you need someone to read and write Chinese, and you can apply through the Alibaba Cloud portal. The second step is that you need to submit the various information that is required. Our team will then verify the information to make sure that you've included it correctly, and that's an important point because quite often one of the main reasons why it's rejected is because you may be missing certain information. And once that's verified, Alibaba Cloud will then submit the application to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology on your behalf, and hopefully the 6th step is success. And then there's another step which is part of the process around the PSB filing, which typically you have to do within 30 days once you get the approval for the ICP license. As I mentioned before, there's a link at the bottom, more information on ICP licensing, or you can look up our China Gateway site on our Alibaba Cloud website to gain more information to understand about our ICP licensing. One of the great feedback and advantages that we've had in the market, which our clients have found particularly useful, is that to connect to all our Alibaba Cloud regions around the world is that you need only to log into one site. So when you log into alibabacloud.com and you've got your user ID set up, you can access any region around the world, and you can deploy any cloud services region around the world based on that. So you don't have to jump on a second portal in China to deploy your cloud resources, all on one. And we're the only provider that's able to provide that all around the world to include China. Access to our Alibaba ecosystem. So obviously Alibaba Cloud is an underlying platform for our whole ecosystem. So there's a couple of key ecosystems that you want to access in China as well. One is around Alipay. So how do people pay for your goods and services that you may sell in China? Obviously Alipay is one of the major ways that people use to pay that. Secondly is around our digital marketing platform, Alibaba, is how do you get access to the users and they get to know about your technology. Cloud I've mentioned before, Turbo, which is our C2C offering, and also our logistics platform, China as well. So the other topic that comes up a lot, and in particular since June 1st, 2017, so cybersecurity law. So there has been a cybersecurity law, but there was a new one that came into effect in June 1st, 2017. And I'll talk through a little bit about an overview of the cybersecurity law, and in terms of the different areas that you need further focus on and discussion. The first is, unlike, it's similar to GDPR law, but obviously it's focused on the China market. One is around making sure that if you've got data, is that you've got sufficient controls regarding network security risks, particular vulnerability management, preventing obviously computer viruses and cyber attacks, storing network logs for at least 6 months, emergency response, and management and training of the users, content security risks, so making sure that any images that are prohibited in China, making sure that they're obviously not accessed through anyone doing business in China, prohibited texts, videos and audios, and other things around personal information protection. So from a real-time identification perspective, is that person that's booking the particular flight or hotel or whatever it is, making sure that that is the actual person regarding that. Collecting the data, making sure the data is transferred correctly, and data storage. And if you are transferring data across border, you need to be able to complete a risk self-assessment, and that risk self-assessment may be assessed by the authorities in the future. Some of the potential fines, and there's a whole bunch of acts there which I'm not going to go through in detail today, but it ranges from financial fines to most severe penalties for network operators is sometimes the suspension of businesses and the shutdown of the website. As I said before, obviously if you need further detail, you're better off getting official advice. We do have a cybersecurity law consulting arm that we can help you with Alibaba Cloud, and we'd be happy to talk about that at a later point in time. Here's some simple scenarios. So if you're just starting business in China, you don't have any type of presence there, but you would like to start dabbling in doing business, you'd like to try it out, you want to see what the market demand is there. You would start by providing your services from your own home country, but you have some online business users in China, and you have potentially an agent in China as well. And what you want to do is speed up the web browsing so that any digital products or content browsing that people are doing, they have a good experience regarding that, otherwise they won't come back again. And this is where we use our Express Connect service, connecting our data centers in Sydney to our data centers in China to make sure that you get that performance. So a couple of things, if you do link a IP address in China with a domain name, you will need an ICP address to do that. ICP addresses obviously you can apply. The other way you can do that is you can work with a third-party company, marketing company, around their ICP licenses as well. And by using this, you can test it. If it doesn't work out, obviously you don't have made a huge investment into there, but you can test your demand. But by testing your demand, you're not just testing your demand under a performance that may not be satisfactory for users in China. You're also doing it based on the fact that they're going to get a good experience because you've used our enterprise network solution and some proxy servers in the local market as well. The next one is if you've got some people on the ground in China. You might have an R&D branch or an outsourcing team or just purely a China team focusing on the business there. So you're starting to ramp up business there. You've got a global development ops team which may not be based in China but may be based somewhere else. You want to be able to start improving the experience further in China by having more local servers, test and development servers, so people that your global development team can access those servers in China can do that locally here rather than transferring the data from where your home country is to China regarding that. So that's the next stage regarding if you go from a small office to a limited office regarding that. The next one is a fully fledged business there. You might be providing, you want to provide real-time services such as IoT or offline to online type of technology. So you might have an actual store there, or you want to get real-time data analysis done locally within the China market around IoT. So then you would look at investing further into our cloud technologies, having further security solutions such as our WAF solution. As I mentioned before, like this, you need an ICP license, and to resolve latency issues, you want to connect to the closest data center, particularly if you're doing a lot of real-time analysis around IoT and obviously store trading, such as retail store trading there as well. And the last topic is if you're all in and you're fully localized. So that means that if you're basically, it's your main market, you're using our full range of services, as I mentioned before, Alibaba, China, Alipay, Alimama, and you'll be accessing other various business units such as Fliggy, Tmall, or Taobao. I'm just going to talk through some reference clients as well. There's a couple here, and I've used some small ones and big ones, and I'll talk through them in various stages. From TeamViewer, so they've a global business. They provide a solution that people can access their data from anywhere, anytime, and any place. And a lot of their multinational companies are based in China. So they wanted to provide that service there and a performance there that's appropriate for that. So they put some local app servers into our cloud business there. And based on that, they were able to significantly reduce the latency and provide a performance that may be similar to if they're in the US, Australia, Europe, or other parts of the world, is by investing locally regarding Alibaba Cloud in terms of that. The next one is AirAsia. So AirAsia uses our CDN service to make sure that they reduce latency and round trip time regarding the services they provide to their potential clients in China. And they also use our WAF services as well. And they use the WAF services, and they did that based on the database of known hackers and patterns that they use to block illicit traffic. By using these two services together, they were actually able to reduce 90% of their traffic, because it was actually 90% of that traffic was coming from bots as well. The other one, which is a local company, Synorbis, it's a marketing platform that they create and optimize and measure their digital presence in China. Based on that, is that if you've got a digital presence in China, they'll help you create it, they'll help you optimize it, and they'll manage it in terms of giving you an idea of what sort of performance you're getting on that. To do that, they needed cloud services in China. Now, what made it so much easier for them is that they were able to pick up the phone, call a local company, which was Alibaba here, meet with our local solution architects, and by meeting with our local solution architects, they could work through the many options that they had available on Alibaba Cloud in China, and based on that, they could then work through this process and have a comfortable experience regarding working through the final solution and dealing with that. So not only did they access all the cloud services there, but they were able to use our local architecture and talent to make that experience as seamless as possible. There's a whole bunch of other client references as well on our website. So if you go to alibaba.cloud.com and you go to references, you can then search under our customers under Why Us, and you'll get a whole bunch of other references. I've put a few here, Strikingly and Philips as well. But you're able to find a hell of a lot more references there, more than what I just mentioned here. Let's move on to Q&A. So I was just hoping if there was any questions from the audience today.
The first question we have here is, if you don't have an ICP license, what cloud services can you run in China?
Yeah, so if you don't have an ICP license, there is some cloud services that will ask for ICP license,
okay.
But there is a lot that won't. However, if you do bind an IP address to a domain name, is that you will need an ICP license in China. So basically, you can run cloud services as long as you don't need an ICP license to run a cloud service, or you don't obviously connect that domain name to an IP address in China.
Okay, and obviously, if people want a bit more information, they can contact us to have a further deep discussion about that.
Exactly. So that's sort of a black and white answer. But if you want further feedback, we'd be happy to sit down and try and work through where you're at regarding that. As I mentioned before, there is some marketing providers that can provide ICP license. So if you do want to try your service in China, and initially you don't want to invest in building a business there, there is partners that can help you through that process as well, that we can introduce and work side by side to help come up with a solution that you can then deploy your website into China. Okay,
great, thanks. You mentioned partners there. So one of the questions we have is how do you set up Alipay in China for customers accessing our service?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a lot of local acquirers that we work with Alipay here, and they've done this over and over again where they've set up with a local company here, so people can do business in China and then get settled in Australian dollars. So we do have a list of local acquirers that we can provide on the Alipay website, and we're happy to provide that in the future.
Okay, great. We've had a few questions just with regards to the business units that are actually operating in Australia. So 2 or 3 people have said what actual units are here operating, and can you give a little bit of a snapshot on each of those?
Yeah, sure. So the Timor business unit, so that's the e-commerce business unit, the cross-border platform that about 2,000 Australian brands use to sell and import into China. The second one is Alipay, which is focused on the Chinese tourism market. Australia's largest tourist market is the Chinese. So Alipay is very popular amongst that. So if they can come to China and they can see the Alipay sign, it was like the old American Express sign when we travelled overseas, is they feel comfortable regarding that. And a couple of reasons they feel comfortable is because they don't have to carry, obviously, Australian dollars cash. Some of them don't have Visa cards. And the other thing is that then they can then use the exchange rate, which can be quite favourable to do that, to convert convert the Australian dollar payment into RMB as well.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think we've just seen some of the major banks here actually now using or accepting Alipay as part of their terminals as well.
Yeah, so NAB and Alipay recently announced a new partnership to do that, so that you could accept it on NAB terminals in the future.
Okay, great.
So that's those two. Obviously the Alibaba Cloud, which we're talking about today. The fourth business unit, which we've just hired recently, is Fliggy. So Fliggy is our online travel marketplace. Mm-hmm. So what that does, it connects all the Alibaba users to an online travel marketplace platform. There's 270 million users today on that.
Okay.
And they call it Fliggy the Flying Pig. Pigs are lucky in China.
I wonder where the name is coming from, but thanks for explaining that.
That's okay. That's okay. And what that does is that it allows Chinese people that want to travel overseas get the full range of experience. So it'll help organise visas. You can then access hotels, experiences. It might be a sporting event that you want to book before you go. Obviously, airfares. Anything that's available for a tourist to travel is on the Fliggy platform. And what the great thing is that it connects, obviously Alipay is connected to Fliggy, and all the different business units are all connected together regarding that. So that's the last business unit that's been operating in Australia. Some of the other business units will have an event here as well, like for example Ali Sports. They sponsor an event, a tournament called the World Electronic Sports Games, WSG. Okay. And for the first time they actually held an event here in Australia. Recently at PAX in PAX down in Melbourne, where they had the best people from Oceania, so Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, Fiji, battle it out against each other, playing various games, about 5 different games, and then they actually go on to China to compete against the best of the world for quite a big prize money, and to be basically to be world champions.
The best of the best.
The best of the best.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. So that was and there is a lot more business units that are becoming much more actively involved in Australia in the future.